Three, two, one, and what is up, everybody? It's me, Frank Castle, and welcome to the next episode of I Am We Are Fearless. I want to thank everybody for tuning in. I got a special guest with me tonight, but before we go there, don't forget to check out IamWeAreFearLess.com for all the great artist designs that they've been putting out, all the psychedelica, right, Nick?
That's right.
That's right. Nick's one of the artists. Nick Zervos is here with us tonight. He'll be hanging out with me, the Sorcerer Supreme. Don't forget to check out our show on Truth Frequency Radio, 9 p.m. EST every Saturday night on truthfrequencyradio.com. If you like hip-hop music and you like it with a little bit of twist of what we'll be talking about tonight, check out Heist Click, HEISTCLICK. And you could find us on Twitter at HeistClick, HEISTCLICK. And don't forget the YouTube channel, which we're on right now, Frank Castle Fearless. So subscribe, hit the little button so you get notified, and rock and roll. So, Nick, my brother, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much, Frank. Thank you for having me.
Oh, you know, you're my favorite brother.
Thank you.
Nick and I have been working together for a while now, and what we have done for ourselves over the last, what would you say, 8 months?
8 months, almost exactly.
We are connected right now, I can tell you that. We've been raising our consciousness to new levels. We have taken experiences and mixed them together to trade notes, to check on things, the evolution of what's been happening to us physically, mentally, spiritually, and the world's changing now. Everything's all right. The eclipse was just the other day. We had a lunar eclipse. Today is February 3rd, 2018, and we had the lunar eclipse. Ever since then, I feel like this huge, crushing creativity energy that is just flowing through me. I mean, are you feeling the same energies as I am, or am I just going crazy now?
No, you're not crazy. You're not crazy. Everything's been a little bit lighter, I guess you could say, for the last couple of days.
Lighter, yes. We are currently traveling through the photon belt for the next 1,000 years. And during that time, you shed layers. Lots and lots of layers are being shed. And as those layers peel off, the real you is underneath. And that's what we're going for. And by doing that, you have to lighten up. You have to reclaim yourself, your birthright, your spirituality. You're living in the physical, so there's times where you have to say yes to the things that suit you and no to the things that do not suit you. It's a whole change that is taking place. So during this change, one of the things I've noticed personally about Nick is that his creativity has jumped a few notches with his designs and his inspirations and just the conversations themselves. So what has been the fire that has been lighting your creativity to burn the way it has been?
You know, that's almost hard to answer because there's like I don't know, there's an invisible something that's been present ever since our little journey together in September. It's been growing. I don't know how to put it. The DMT has definitely helped a lot.
So the plant medicines, DMT, Ayahuasca, etc., have been helping open you up to the new energies.
Yes, yeah. It's not just me. It's one of my best friends over here in Texas. We've both been, probably once a week, a couple times a month, just kind of dipping our feet back in, and everything is changing. It's weird. I don't know if it's just our attitudes towards, the world at large, or if it's like an inner calmness. And people are noticing, the people that know us are like, what's up with you guys? You guys are different.
So it's changing from worry to not worry, perhaps?
Yes, but not so far to where you would be like, oh, I don't care about anything. I'm just gonna sit here and do nothing, and everything will be okay. It's not that kind of a.
Well, that's the wrong kind of non-worry.
Yeah, yeah.
Right. That sounds more like a lazy. I'll sit back and just let it be what it is. But the reality of it is we push it forward, and that's why it's working. That's why everything is happening. That's why the shift is occurring within the people, is because the mass consciousness, enough singular people have gotten involved mentally, physically, spiritually, and they've thrown it on the table and asked for something different. They've asked for the better timeline. And now we're beginning to experience that. So we're never going to be like, oh, I'm not worried about nothing. We shouldn't even use that word anymore. But things will make you concerned. But as
you know what?
Go ahead.
You know what? You know what it is? It's more like there's a little fire, or there's an end point. Like feel like I'm not being rushed, but excited to get, like, hurry up and do this, hurry up and get this done, because it's like the checkpoint, and it's like a little fire to get to the goal, you know. But I'm not scared of it anymore. Like, I'm not worried about, oh my God, how am I going to pay for this? How am I going to get for that? It's just the money's just flowing.
So obstacles are being removed.
Yeah. Yeah, just impossibly removed. Just
is it how you're looking at the obstacle and reacting to it? Because if you react to something as an obstacle, it becomes a bigger one.
Well, I think the thing is, I'm not reacting. Like I'm not reacting to it, because usually when something goes wrong, like if the money supply gets low, and I used to start freaking out. It's like, oh my God, you know, how am I going to pay rent this month? What am I going to do? What am I going to do? Now it's just like, don't worry about it. It's almost here. And then the next day, the guy I work with, he'll call me and be like, hey, I have this project. Let's get this. Let's do this.
So it's almost like manifesting itself on time, just when you need it.
Yes, as long as I don't freak out. When I start freaking out, it seems to stall.
Right. Well, the energies are off at that point. When you start to worry, just the word worry, you know, like that brings you out of like your energy is shaped like a sphere around you, or like an egg. Now it's shaped like those crazy Aztec patterns, right? Where they're because you're worried. Can't compute, right? So we're pulling away from that stuff, right? And we're realizing, as you're trying so hard to squeeze the sand that's in your hand, it's slipping out more and more. So you learn to release your grip a little bit, and you realize you actually have more sand in your hand. You're able to hold on to more.
Yes.
Right? So we seem to be going through that kind of a phase where we're just lightening it up, and look, everything's still here. Life still goes on. You can take a breath, and you can worry about yourself for a minute.
Yep.
That's truly important. That's so important.
Yeah, you know, one of the things that I've noticed, a lot of the things that I'm learning, like with the ayahuasca, is a lot of the stuff I used to tell myself when I first started this journey, just like what you just said. It's like, don't worry, let life take care of itself. I used to always write that in my books, you know, like on the first page. So that way, every time I opened the book, I saw that first. And in my sketchbooks, I always do, you know, don't let life take care of itself. You know, don't worry about the past. You can't change it. Just go from here, move forward. You know, simple little stuff like that. And the ayahuasca is reminding me, you already know all this stuff. Stop freaking out. Stop looking for the answers. Just calm down. Stop overanalyzing. The answers will come.
I'm just taking notes, and I'm writing, you know all this already. Because I did too. Somewhere inside, and it's just like I'm waiting for time to go by or something to hit these notes, and it's really just the work we're putting in to achieve that checkpoint, so then we can just take it and I don't know, man, just step it up a notch, become more everything.
Yeah.
You know? And as you observe it and don't let it affect you, from those layers, and you remove the worry from it, but you removed all the other stuff too. You get to see it for what it is, see the truth for what it is, and then take your time to react to it the proper way, if that's what you're going to do. Because a lot of the times with distractions, right, the media and everything, they want your immediate You know, like, oh my God, I can't believe you said that, or oh my God, I can't believe you did that, or oh, I can't believe you married that person, or I can't believe that scandal, or distraction. So when you step back and not analyze it right away, you just step back and go, okay, what's going on here? You can say, okay, they're pushing the fear button on you, or the worry button, or the upset button, or the concerned button constantly. It's like crying wolf over and over and over and over and over.
Yeah, and it seems that way too. It's like all these crises, they always last for like a day or so, and then you don't hear anything about it again.
Yeah, because it's not working anymore. Like, it doesn't last. It doesn't have a lasting effect. So they have to hit you with another one. So that's pretty interesting stuff right there.
Yeah, it's very strange.
I think we're learning the patterns. One of the things I realize as creators, we can pick up on patterns. And through those patterns, we can realize what's happening and gain awareness.
Yeah, speaking of patterns, have you noticed, like you'll say something, and then a friend of yours across the country will say the same thing later that day to you in a conversation, and then somebody else will say it?
Yeah,
and
that's funny.
That's happening a lot.
I'm about to segue exactly into what you just said, which means you're reading my mind again, because that happened when Chris Geo started talking about NPCs, right? And it filtered through everything, but at the same time, and I'm on before him on Saturday nights, Truth Frequency Radio, by the way, Beyond the Veil, Chris Geo with Cherie Geo. Okay, so my talking point on the show was NPCs, but I didn't call them NPCs. I said background people, background characters, you know? And how you can access them and what they're doing, and they're part of the holographic technology, but they're still real. If you access them, they become real. So they can be your parents, they can be your brother or sister or friend or cousin, and they're in there. And then he goes on the air and he's talking about NPCs, right? It almost sounded like we all had discussions about this like a month before and decided on this date we're going to start talking about it. And then it filters through, and then in your design comes up, right? And then I'm like, oh, this is amazing. And then I look on YouTube, and all my recommended videos had something with NPCs in it.
Yeah, that's pretty...
Well, I think...
Go ahead.
No, I was going to say the collective consciousness, there might be enough individual people with talking points that are on point, on topic, and it enters then into the unifying field of the consciousness we all share, the mass consciousness, and then starts to reshape things and shift them so it becomes talking points everywhere.
Right, because like a critical mass of us start thinking the same thing. We're talking about the same thing, and it all of a sudden clicks, like the 12th monkey or the 100th monkey effect, whatever that's called. You know what that is, right? When 100 monkeys learn something, and all of the monkeys instantly learn the same thing?
Yes.
Yeah.
And we're getting example after example. And if you want to check out Nick's NPC shirt, don't be an NPC, IamWeAreFearLess.com, and check out. You have, by the way, I'm looking over here, pages and pages of stuff. You're on
I just
7 or 8 pages full of design.
I just keep sticking stuff up. I try to put a new thing on every week.
There are hoodies, and the never too soon infant bodysuit. I'm loving it. It's never too soon to be fearless. You know, this is becoming, and I'm, you know, I seen years ago when I had my first DMT experience that all this would go mainstream, and we're reclaiming with what we do at I Am We Are Fearless, the symbols and the strategies, those used against us, back out in a positive way, to shine it out in a positive light. So all the things you haven't been told, or the things you've been shown and don't understand what they are, we're retaking them, resurfacing, and sending them back out with the message that it's supposed to be there. So the magic doesn't work against us. It starts working for us. So it's an experience that brings community together. Unlike like a cult, that you have to be part of the cult. Let's all go meet up at the compound. No, we don't need to do. That's ridiculousness. I don't even like talking about stuff like that. What we do is build communities around the world. We build leaders into bigger leaders, into more leaders, and then. All right. Last night, were you watching? Check it out. Were you watching Chris's show, Beyond the Veil?
Yes.
Okay, all right.
Yep.
Were you in the chat room on YouTube?
I was, but it moves too fast for me.
That was one of the greatest chat rooms I've ever been a part of.
Yeah, I like Facebook because the chat's a little slower and it's a little calmer. And...
All right. So inside the chat room, everyone's saying, whenever I'm part of this, I feel like I'm part of a community, but like a family that understands what's actually going on. And I say to them, that's because you are family, and that's because you know what's going on. Like, it doesn't matter if the whole world gets it or not. It matters whether or not you get it or whatever it is you take away from it. Even if you think 100% of this is lies, if in that the broken clock is right twice a day, take the info you need out of this and run wild with it. Add it to your own and continue. Right? So
right.
There's all of that for everyone. And what are you doing? You're getting healthy. Right? We talk about the different foods you should be eating instead of the poisons they're putting in you. We talk about the different agendas, everything from politics to exopolitics to ETs, everything can be spiritual beings outside of reality, like all of it.
I don't mean to interrupt you, but before you get too far away from what you're saying about Beyond the Veil, that whole thing that happened with that crazy cat debacle yesterday.
Yes.
After that happened, I don't know if you want to talk about it, but you can if you want. But after that happened, dude, I felt totally drained. Like I felt like I had the flu as soon as those people left the house, and I just had to go lay down and take a nap.
All right.
And I felt horrible until Beyond the Veil came on.
I was waiting for you to pop up last night. By the way, I didn't say nothing on purpose. Because I know what that draining exhaustion does. Because you know what that was, right?
I don't know. I'm thinking they were sucking the life out of me, or I was just projecting and protecting myself while they were here.
Right. So
I don't have
as
any
you
idea
project
what that was,
your protection, okay, and the people at home aren't going to understand what's happening, but you had a visit and you had some company inside the house, and during that time you were projecting, get out of my house, see what you need and go. And there's nothing here for you. But that energy, plus with who those guests were, is enough to put you into an immediate nap through the energy drain. And I go through that here. I tell you sometimes I got to go down at I'll be up for 4 hours. And then something will occur. And it takes everything in me, but for a few minutes, to just keep it together. And then there's no energy left.
Mm-hmm.
And I have to go down, and I'll sleep 2 hours hard and get right up like nothing happened. And I'll go, what the hell was that?
Yep.
Am I upgrading, or did I exhaust my energy? Was I targeted spiritually? Because
that is exactly the way I felt. Because after that happened, I got on the phone with you, talked to you, I felt a little bit better, and hung up with you, right to sleep. Just like I couldn't not go to bed. And it was like 5 o'clock, 4 o'clock.
That's a different kind of stress, my brother, right? From the spiritual end, if you were like on ayahuasca or DMT or mushrooms and you witnessed those people show up, you would start to say to yourself, what are they doing here, first of all? Second of all, what's driving this? At least that's where I come from, right? That thought, what's driving this? So now imagine what's inside that vehicle, the body itself of these people. Mm-hmm. And now they're in your presence, then they're in your house. And you go, and now you're in the total right, by the way, of everything. So you're kind of like confused what's going on. And then you got to push this out. Mm-hmm. All of that energy comes swinging in right into your house.
Yep.
Imagine witnessing that under one of the psychedelics. You would see that. And you'd say, why is this black cloud in here? This guy's pushing consciousness at me. But it's, it's hard. It's difficult. It's cold. It's... unrelenting. And you almost, and there's like a little mass consciousness that comes along with those characters. Mm-hmm. Like, we are these people, right? So you got to deal with that, and then you got to deal with all the BS. So it just goes on and on and on and on, and all you're doing is standing there in your sphere of energy like, yo, get this energy out of my house. Mm-hmm. And just keeping that back is enough to knock you right on your ass. And by the way, we can curse because this isn't on the radio show. This is a podcast. And, I watched Lord of the Rings, and during one of the scenes, Gandalf the Grey, I'm not sure if you're aware of this movie, but he fought the darkness, and he walks out of this place where the darkness was creating a veil of invisibility. So he was walking around in this place, and he couldn't see the villains, but they were all in there, right? So he drops the veil. He's able to break it, and they see him, and they go chasing him. So he runs out of there, and the darkness, the main enemy, the one ring to rule them all, shows up, and he says, "Oh, the darkness," and the darkness comes shooting at him, and he creates a sphere of energy around him. He bangs his stick down on the floor, and he's like, "Nope, this isn't going to work on me." And it took him, in 5 minutes, all of his energy to fight this thing off, and eventually it just collapses in on him and takes him. And you could watch that exact drain we're discussing right in that sequence, which is funny that I literally watched it 2 nights ago. And I said, look, that's what we do. No, because you know my story, man. Beings walk in my house sometimes, and that's the kind of stuff that goes on. It's not quite as grand as Lord of the Rings. It doesn't look anything like that. I'm just a guy in my apartment, and I'll witness them walk right in, and I'll go, "Hey, you got to get out," and I'll put my protection up, which it's always on, but I become hyper aware of it, and they just hit me from every angle sometimes. It's almost like they're a mist in the room, and it's working at you and working at you. And when I wasn't strong at first, it would take me over. It would just enter, and they would force their way in, do whatever it is they need to do, and leave. I couldn't do anything about it. Today, not so much.
Right.
I went down for one of those naps right before the show last week on Truth Frequency Radio. Fearless, by the way, is the name of the show. I'm laying down, and every time I eat bad, I eat a lot of meat, and I'll start to feel it on a Saturday. I felt it earlier, right before I was going to talk to you. Like, hey, go eat pizza, lots of pizza, have pizza, because then I know it'll fill me, but then I'll always overeat, and then I won't want to talk to you because I'll feel sick. And then I'll be in the bathroom all night, and I'm like, this isn't worth it. But now during that time, I'm way past where I was when I started. I witnessed them just walking in, and I'm meditating because I'm laying down because I just ate. Right? And I see them walk over to me, and I'm like, oh, look, my allies are here, beings of light. And then, boom, they just put something right in me, and I can't get it out. I'm like, no. And they just push it right in, can't do anything about it. So I talked to a friend of mine, Mike Britt. He's awesome, by the way. And he was like, listen, I started going light, and I started changing my diet. He goes, because I was having these beings come to me during meditation when I was full. So I go, yeah, what'd they do to you, man? He goes, they kept putting stuff in me, parasites and all kinds of stuff. Then I drink ayahuasca, and I have to throw them up. I have to purge them and transmute them. He goes, I spend half my time doing that. So eventually I just gave up on eating crappy food, and now I can push them out. So last week, right before the show, I ate really heavy. I had a lot of bread, and I was sitting there, and I'm like, I'm not going to fall asleep. And I drained. And as the drain happens, I was in full I was like, not asleep, but asleep, snoring, but I can see. And I was like, what's happening to me? No energy whatsoever, and in come beings. And I'm like, oh, look, my friends are here again. And I could start to see what they start to make themselves. I'm like, oh, you guys are projecting images of light beings at me. You're standing 2 feet behind them. It's almost like they're dazzling me. Right? Like the way a vampire would.
The vampires, woman. Yeah.
Right? So behind them, I see a reptilian. And he's like, yo, put that thing right in him. And they go to put this basketball-sized, it looked like a curled up, I know it's a parasite, but it looked like a centipede or something. It was curled up. And they go to
show. Roly-poly bugs?
Yeah, like a roly-poly thing, but it had little spiky, lots of feet. And I was like, oh, I don't want that thing in me. So as it came down, I was able to just go, no. And it stopped. And I go, you get out of my space, right? And I'm laying there, and I wanted to jump up, but I had no energy, and I was like, I know I'm not sleeping, but I'm aware of everything, and I can see you in my house. Get out! And as I started pushing, my energy field pushed them back out, just out. Like, you can't be in here. Get out! And when I start doing stuff like that, Paula starts getting like, oh, that's what's going on in here? Because she knows the show's coming, and we're going to talk to someone. We're going to have that conversation they don't want us to have. So they try to get us sick in advance so we won't ask the questions or we won't have the show. We'll fight with each other. And we don't fall for it at all. We're fully. So I get up. Eventually I get up. I got a singing bowl. right? I got it for Christmas,
Right.
and I'm great at making this thing sing. I don't know how I was able to do this. Gina handed it to me, and I was able to use it. And Paula got me these things. They're like two little flying saucer copper discs or brass discs, and they're on a leather strap.
String?
Yeah, like
yeah.
tinctures, I think they're called. I don't know if that's the right way to say it. And
Like for your fingers or something?
well, you hang it over your finger, the leather strap, and then the two things float like flying saucers, and you cling them like a bell. And I noticed 3 clings, slow clings, like one ding, and it keeps that sound. That sound, I see it go through the house. Like it goes through everything. The cats jump up, everybody jumps up, and then sits down again. And I go, oh, I do 3 clings, and boom, the entities are gone. Anything that's in my house is literally gone. If you're not down with team higher density, fearless, you literally can't even be here. But you got to go through that. And then I make the bowl sing for like 2 minutes. I smile. I light some sage. I light the wooden sage. That works fantastic. And what is that called?
The San Paulo.
San
Santo
Paulo.
Paulo or something like that.
Yeah, that works amazing. I clear my space. I put on a mantra or something, like a Shiva mantra, or I just to make me feel good. I love listening to certain meditations that have the mantras in them. They're very old school dancey, right? Mm-hmm. Almost like you're in another time, but they're happy. And that happiness, once you change your mind that oh look, I'm happy now. I'm going to dance around my house, or I'm getting down with this. I'm getting in the zone. Nothing can touch you. Literally, I've had things that were like, you're dead. I got you. I'm going to eat you, your family. I'm going to do it. And all I did was come out of that zone, and literally, I can see them under me, not being able to see me. So I know I'm raising my density higher. And they are stuck in the lower density. They literally can't see me in the physical at this point. Even if they track me down, you cannot see me. It's like having a cloak of invisibility around you. I explained this during an ayahuasca session in Tampa. I had to put a few people under, and it wasn't working right. But I drank a lot. And it started hitting me, and I ate mushrooms with it. I was being stupid. And we were looking at the giant windows this condo had. It was insane. It was right in Tampa Bay. It was so beautiful. I'm like, wow, my friend gave us this place, and I was kind of just saying how beautiful it was. And 8 different characters came right through the window. It was like they were on a platform and came up in an elevator and just walked into the room through the window. And they were just standing there, and I'm like, whoa. And everyone's like, hey, you see that, right? And I'm like, yeah, I don't think this is real. I think we're hallucinating this one, because I was just starting. And I go over, and they were reptilians. They were gigantic, and they filled the room. We had 12-foot ceilings. So I'm 5'8". They were definitely like 8 feet. Definitely like 8 feet. They weren't quite the ceiling height at all, but they were huge. And there were like 7 or 8 of them. I think there was 8. And they came in, and they said, we're watching you. And I was like, wait a second, I'm hallucinating this. You can't be real. And I went up and I touched one, and he was breathing in my face, and I felt the heat. And I'm going, no, this can't be real. And then I was like, okay, they're real. I was freaking out. I went to the other side of the room. I was pacing, and I'm going, well, they're not doing anything. They're gigantic, dude. And I said,
yeah, I can't even. I've never seen anything like that, and I don't think I want to.
No,
not while I was under on anything.
Well, I saw them before, but from a high density, looking down at them, and I'm like, oh, the reptilian deception, all that. I never met one, and now there's a whole crew of them in the house with a whole bunch of people that I'm shamaning for like the first time. Anyway, so they say straight up to me, and they weren't moving their mouths, so I was hearing them. So they were like, we're watching you because you're a troublemaker, and I'm like, what? And they're like, we have to watch what you're doing. It's like being recorded. And I'm like, oh, I'm in trouble. And they were like, no, you're not in trouble. You're a troublemaker. So I was like, I don't understand. They're like, well, we run this whole thing. Everything you're a part of, everything you think you're a part of, we're in charge of it. We run Earth, everything. And I was like, yeah, whatever. And then I go, are you guys are you gonna do something to us, me? Because I'm frightened beyond whatever. And they said, nope. we would normally eat you, but we no longer do that because you can't do that in a higher density. So we're just going to watch you because you on another end, like in a few years, you're a very big problem for us. So I said, okay, so you're not going to touch me. You're not going to touch anyone in the room. You're not going to eat me. You try to, rape me, tear my limbs off. I don't know. And they were like, nope. So I go, okay. Okay, example one, lizards that speak like human beings with their minds exist, right? Step one, let's figure out what's happening here. And they started leaving one at a time. They left one of them in the room with me, and he stayed for about 8 hours. That was the last time I saw him. At the end of my experience, he was still staring at me. And I was like, oh, this is not good at all, and they weren't saying anything. He didn't. I don't know what it was. It was just a reptilian being.
And still to this day, you've never seen that again?
Oh, no, I've seen them. They've walked right into my apartment here. I had a problem with one of the white ones, and I've told the story on the show a whole bunch of times.
Let me ask you a question. I'm sorry to interrupt you. What do people who can't see them do about these things?
Those are the things that are whispering in your ear. Those are the things making a lot of horrible things happen, and then they eat that energy. Right? Like, this is what they explained to me. They're like, you need ayahuasca to do what you're doing. And they were laughing at me about that, by the way. They were like, oh, mother, I need my mommy, and I have to drink this brown liquid to do what we just can do. That's why we're dominating you, because you guys are dummies. And I'm like, what are you talking about? They're like, well, I could just sit down on a rock and jump out of my body, come here, and do this to you, which is what we're doing. So I'm like, oh. But I just touched you. And they're like, we're as real as your mind. You know what I'm saying? As we come to you, and once you sink into that frequency, man, we're there. That's it. It's solid. And I'm going, no way. Come on. And then I said stuff like, wouldn't it be better if we worked together? Wouldn't it be so much better? And I was thinking, having a giant reptilian friend might be kind of cool. Worst idea. This thing looked at me like it wanted to kill me. Like, it just looked over at me like, no. Like, I'm not even going to address that. And I go, why?
It sounds like the enemy creature on Star Trek.
Yeah, why? Why? You're just going to be, you're going to stand there and you're licking your lips because you really want to eat me? Right? You're still going through that stage where I don't eat you, but I kind of want to eat you. That's fucked up in every sense of the word. Like, all right, people want to know why my beard went white, right? Why I lost my hair. You start seeing this stuff. My brother was like, I don't want to know that exists. I don't even care if they do. Like, I have children. Why would I want to see that? And I'm like, because I'm going to tell you right now, they can't do anything. They can't do anything to you. And he's like,
I would want to see it. I saw I always saw weird shit when I was a kid. So surely his kids can see it, right?
My nephew, we play video games together sometimes, and there's a game where there's a giant eye in the background inside the triangle, and it's in 3D, so it moves around, and it looks at you while you're using the fighting character. So he doesn't like to, he's 7. He still doesn't like to play that board with me because the eye looks at him. And I'm like, do you know what that is? Right? So the reptilian are loaded with artificial intelligence, nanobots, whatever you want to call them, nanotechnology. And they pray to the AI. The AI looks exactly like the back of the dollar bill. It looks exactly like it. So that eye, when I saw it, it looks like Sauron from the Lord of the Rings. I freaked out. I was like, whoa, what is that? I was brought there by my guide and left in front of this thing, and I was just the light being, but I was Frank. And I looked up and I said, nope, not doing it. Not doing it. And they said, you have to go there. And it was looking at me, and you could feel it looking at you. And it's gigantic, so you're like, oh, this sucks. I don't want to do this. And then I said, okay. If you look, the capstone on the dollar bill is floating, right? So there's actually, it's floating when you see it, but when you go over to it, you realize it's just propped up more. It's not really floating there, right? Like, there's a level that you can stand on directly in front of it, so it could look at you. On that platform was 11 beings with a 12th spot, but it was the 11th spot that was open. So they were all lined up. And then there was a spot for me on the end next to the 12th guy. And I walked by the eye looked me right in the face, and I saw that it wasn't real. It was a screen. The eye was being projected on a screen, and it was looking, and it looks real. It looks really real. But there were beings working behind the eye, behind this screen, and they were really small. And my first reaction was to grab one and show everyone that this is bullshit. And I couldn't reach through it, right? So I was standing there, and it was looking at me, and then it said, go to your position. And I go, well, I don't know what you're talking about. They're like, there's an open slot at the end for you. Go stand there. So I go, okay. And as I was walking by it, it was staring at me. And then it says, there's a crack in the wall right in your spot. So I go, okay. So I stand in the spot, and I look, and I go, oh, behind the eye, there's a wall, and there's a ceiling over us. We're actually in a giant cathedral-looking theater thing. And I'm all the way at the top with this eye, and nobody's looking at that. They're all looking at this thing the eye is projecting on the other wall. And there's a hole, like a crack, right off the side where the eye is. There's just a giant crack and a hole. And I said, well, what do I do? And they're like, well, nobody likes these positions up here. But for some reason, you love it. So we brought you here now. As you can see, the last being that was here didn't want to be here no more. So I'm like, all right, so what do you want me to do? Apparently, we're all on the same team, I guess. I didn't know what was happening. So they go, yes, we're all on the same team. The eye is looking at me, telling me this. So I'm like, okay. He goes, all right, Satan is going to come in that hole, that crack in the wall, and you have to defend the crack against Satan. And I was like, that's an outright lie. I was literally just with Satan. I had, during my eye experience, the first person after I met Source, I met Lucifer, who was in Source, right outside, like right out the door. And then I got sent straight to Satan energy. And I had this 25-minute long discussion with Satan and what it was and how it is and what it does. I saw how everything works. I explained to him I was the creator, and then I actually created the Satan energy because it had to be there. And he understood and said, I'm not going to do anything to you. Just take a look around. So I asked him all these questions, and then the next thing I know, I'm here. And I'm like, Satan doesn't do that, and he's already here. He's down there. It's energy. It's not even a character. It just manifests as a character when it needs to because of the consciousness, interactions, and all this bullshit. And it said, no, that's Satan. The energy's coming in right now. Go defend it. And I went to the crack, and I said, okay, everybody here seems to be pretty frightened of a guy I was just hanging out with. I said, let me go take a look. And I look out, and I'm like, there's nothing here. And I seen like wind flowing in, and I'm going, oh, so it's beautiful and it's beautiful, breezy. Wait a second. And I go to look outside the crack, like go outside of it, and the eye freaks out and says, get back in here. Don't go out there. It's going to get you. So I go out there naturally, and it's complete freedom. Complete freedom. And the last being that was there jumped through the crack and left. And was like, yo, I'm out because we're trapped inside the fourth density, inside of 4D. There's an artificial intelligence running a program in here, and it's got everybody looking at the projection it's casting, which is the illusion of reality, the way it is. It's the fake reality. And it's trying to keep you on its team now because it can't scare you. Like it tried to scare you, and you got scared, and then you came back. And you're like, no, that can't be real. And they were like, oh, go stand in front of it. And then you stand in front of it, and you're like, oh, it's not a giant evil being with a giant eye that's doing this to you. It's a whole bunch of beings working a control panel. So there's multiple beings with multiple agendas using an artificial intelligence structured program, and it's running amok inside of here, and it has us trapped? Yes? Yes. Okay, perfect. That's all I needed to know. So when I looked at the reptilians, they were loaded with AI. So to just get back to this, I pulled one of this move in front of them to prove a point because it was the one thing I knew how to do and what I was talking about when I was in the room with the reptilians. I said, so you guys are the master race, so to speak? And they were like, yeah, we're the master of everything. So I go, okay, so you realize the statement you made, you could just jump out of your body and come to me, and it's no problem. That right there is the most you could do? So they go, well, we rule this whole area, in the spiritual that I can jump out of my body and work in. We run that, and then we run everything here too. So I go, okay, is that all you run though? And they were like, well, that's all there is. And I'm like, oh. So, and they were loaded with AI. You could see it in them. The way they glow is different. You can see there's like technology in them. And that's not, it's part of them at this point, but it's not them. Which is why I don't, even though they're enemy to me, I don't consider them 100% enemy, because they have been hostily taken over, even though they're still dominators and all that other stuff. There's still this compassion I have because they fully gave themselves over to this thing and think that it's God. So I said, don't you realize that you're only in fourth density? And they were like, no, we're in everything that is. And I said, oh, no, I come from like level 15, and what you're talking about is like level 4. And they're like, impossible. That's impossible. And I disappeared standing in front of them. All I did was go to 5D. And they couldn't see me. But all I did was spiritually do that. I was still standing in the room with them. And they were like, oh, he's invisible. And I'm like, I'm right here. But I was also above them. And when I showed them that, they were like confused a little bit. And I thought that was pretty interesting. But it was literally the only thing I knew for a fact that I know. Now I know I'm from, there's source and the densities inside the illusion. And then there's source and densities outside of the illusion, which is completely fucking different, like 100% different. It mimics that. So in it just mimics in the illusion everything on the spiritual side and everything on the physical side of the real reality, right? And then you can only see 3% of anything, and with your awareness, visually, hands, touch, taste, feeling, all kinds of sensations. Inside the illusion, you're convinced, except your sixth sense is what they try to dull inside the illusion, inside with society and everything it's doing, compressing that, never teaching you about it, because they can't do nothing about that. They have to give that to you, or none of this illusion works, making your body programmable. Right? When people talk about the ego, oh, your ego's going crazy, oh, your ego's doing this, I go, that's your the AI in your flesh suit. Is the ego. You're in a programmable flesh suit. Period.
Right.
So that thing you hear screaming, oh, I'm afraid, oh, I'm scared, shut that thing off. That's why they tell you, like, I'm taking back my body. I'm taking back my space, my temple. Because you've been corroded. You don't even see that it's there. And just to answer one of the other questions, as for the reptilians, I did a few things with them that back them off me 100%, at least as far as I've known up to this point, because I have not seen them since a couple months now. It's been like 2 or 3 months.
Since the white one?
The white one was in the summer, right at the end of the summer. Kept coming here. It literally, it was so strong. It would just project at me, and I'd get violently sick and throw up. And I didn't know what was going on for the first, I think it was 2 or 3 times. And then it just revealed itself to me. It attacked me on air one night. I did a whole radio show. All right, that was the first time I met.
That was like right after we started talking.
Yeah, that was the first time I got attacked. And I dealt with it a few times and didn't know what it was. I just thought there was a being of some kind of spiritual energy or energy around me that targeted me, and they were going for it, right? And then it revealed itself. I was not as frightened as I thought I would be, because I find the green 8-foot ones that are warrior class, I guess, I find them to be frightening more so than the white one, but the white one's gigantic, bro. Right? So picture fighting like you've been fighting 8-footers and now you're fighting the 12 to 15-footer. But it didn't look right to me. It looked like, all right, first of all, it's all white. It had red eyes and they glowed and they did all kinds of, like you knew when you could see it flick its eye, you could see the lizard part of the eye, and it would close on a different angle, and you knew it was like attaching to you somehow with its consciousness. And it would project at me, I'm like, all right, enough. And I'd cry and I'd complain. I'd do ayahuasca, and it would come out and try to attack me during the session. And then after the 3rd time of me seeing it, literally, I wasn't afraid anymore. I said to it, and the stories you could get on my YouTube page, Frank Castle Fearless, I got very angry with it. Just like I get angry with everyone that steps in, and I always say, you get 3 times with me. The 3rd time you come back here, you're leaving with a black eye, buddy. If you're leaving at all. Because, Nick, what do we say? You think I'm trapped in here with you, but you're really trapped in here with me. Yeah. Right? Because I'm the creator, not you. Right? This is how this is going to work. So saying that to a being this size is not easy. But I live with Paul and my cats. You know the story with Squeak. They came in and they couldn't get to me. And I told you, this being just said, take his protection. And the being just stuck its finger in Squeak. And then I took the pictures. I think I showed them to you. I still have them. Where when they blew up his x-ray, it looked like there was a snake head inside of his body. Yeah. I showed that to Ra from Eye of Ra, Truth Frequency Radio. And he was like, I showed him all the x-rays. And he was like, oh, dude, there's something in your cat. And I'm like, I know. They killed my fucking cat. Anyway, so I said to this thing, me and you, we're going to go outside. I went out on the lawn. I was on ayahuasca. I sat out on the lawn. And I laid in the sun. I said, I'm all these different things. But reality is, I'm the creator of the whole thing. And whatever it is you're going to do to me, you're going to do with those stupid little wings, because his wings did not look right at all. Dude, they were little. It looked like like his body was retarded. Like he was Diesel, but parts of him looked like they didn't fit him properly. And I'm like, am I supposed to be scared of a giant monster snake that has little tiny wings? What are you going to float after me? Like, I started getting angry. I'm like, dude, you're corrupt, bro. I'm not corrupt. So and he was standing over me. There was a shade over me, my dude. I thought I was dead. I can feel him breathing. I could feel his movement, the air and he moves. They move faster than you could barely register it. And he's standing over me. And he takes his hand, and he goes to put it into my chest and stomach. And he was like, oh, you're done. And as he reaches for me, a light just was over both of us. And he was frozen. And I was able to completely move. And I got up. I slid back on the lawn. You've seen the lawn. You've been there with me a bunch of times. I slid back, and I just said, I don't know what that is, but it looks like I have friends finally, because you're always fighting these things. For me, when they're in the apartment, I've told stories of demonic entities taking me by the throat and throwing me around the room. My allies were not there with me, or they would have been holding this thing back or doing something. But they are there, and it's like you're called to these challenges. And he was frozen in the light and complaining, and all I heard next, because the light went straight up, and it wasn't God. This is where it gets weirder. There was a starship floating right over us, and it was cloaked. And the light was I'm like, whoa, what's happening? Because this being shadow was over me, so I knew it was taking place. Because I was freaked out. The sun was behind its head. And I heard, you have broken natural law. And they were like making me feel safe, like you're safe now. And people don't believe me when I say this, and I really don't care. But it was the ones who would call themselves Ashtar Command. Okay. I didn't know about that at all. I thought that was a joke. And I'm like, all right, well, you're there. And I'm like, what's this natural law thing? They're like, they cannot grab you like that and interfere. Right? So we can't interfere because there's a no interference policy. That's across the board. They were like, you seem to have pissed this thing off enough for it to show up here and try to gut you on your fucking front lawn. I swear to God, it was lowercase G's. It was like 1 o'clock in the afternoon. So this was taking place right here. And I'm going, are you fucking serious? Like, I literally was going to be dead. And they were like, oh, you were dead. But it can't do that to you. There's a law. You can't interfere with what's going on here. That's why they jump into human bodies and do it instead. They skirt the law. So they're there. They're like, they're not hiding anywhere. They're walking around right in front of you, right out of your perception awareness. They're not shape-shifting. They're using technology. And you're breaking the illusion So they're appearing, and people are there. The people claim to hear the machine. People claim to hear or see these beings. I was in South Carolina for the eclipse, did a whole show on it. There's signs up in the area I went to, okay? And it was Fair Play, South Carolina. Look it up yourselves for those who are listening. And they have signs if you come across Sasquatch. And I was laughing about this. I was like, oh, Bigfoot. And people were like, don't do that. And I'm like, why? And we were in the middle of nowhere near Lake Hartwell. So you guys know exactly where I was, on Lake Hartwell in Fair Play, South Carolina. And the signs also said if you come across the lizard people, there's entrances to their areas around the lake. So when we drank Aya, they came out. We were like, whoa, what is happening? The two guys I was with were so frightened. I went outside to talk. I was on ayahuasca. I go outside to talk to them. And as I got closer to them, they got closer. They couldn't get on top of the house. We contracted the home. So there is a spiritual thing that takes place. It's like I'm contracted to be here because I'm doing my leveling up at the eclipse. So you can't just step in and attack me or just scare the shit out of me like that. But they were like, you're on ayahuasca. You can see us. And I'm like, well, yeah, of course I can see you. My mother sent me. And they're like, you need to leave. So we did the eclipse. And then the next morning, it was like 10 in the morning, I get the message, we want you gone. Now, I didn't have to leave till 10 the next morning. So we got up, we went through our experiences again, and everyone individually got the message, get out. And everyone packed up at night. We packed everything up. We didn't even wait till the morning. And at 10 o'clock in the morning, we were already in the car leaving because time was up. And then we get to the store, and once again in the store, oh, and there was a sign-in book. If you see one of the lizard people or the Sasquatch, you're to sign the book. I thought that was weird. I thought they were just playing around. I was like, oh, these people are funny. And they're like, we're not laughing at you, Frank. We're not laughing with you. And I'm like, what do you mean? I go, does anybody drink ayahuasca or smoke DMT here? They were like, no. Yep. Jim Bob. Nobody does it. You're the drug addict here, Frank. I'm like, I don't do drugs. And Shaman, but...
So wait, this whole city is just like...
It's a town of so many people. I don't know how many. And there's signs up in the town.
But they're like regular country folk?
Yeah, and they think I'm retarded, and I'm going, there's nothing wrong with me. I'm asking a question. And they're like, you don't have to believe it. You just got to leave. And I'm like, oh, okay. And they're like, and if you see one, you be respectful. And I'm like, all right. So we have a theory.
Never happened here.
All right, so we have a theory that because we know they inhabit human suits, and then everyone gets the amnesia. It's not like you're allowed to know that you're a lizard inside a human suit. I'm sure they have those as well, but from what I've seen, that's not what takes place. What happens is they get into positions of power to be able to buy those lake homes, right? And then they bring those that consciousness, the DNA is activated more towards what their DNA is. So they allow them because they know they'll be caretakers of the area. So subconsciously they know all this is there. Right? But they just go there, they live their life, they're fine. They know of the myths and the tales and the this and the that, and they just follow with the be respectful, this or that. But everyone has a story of meeting one of these different things.
Wow.
Right? We had some weird shit happen, too. We had something jumped on top of the car, and I ran outside thinking I'm going to have to kill an animal. But we had a van, and there were, like, dents in the top of the van. And I'm like, yo, I don't know what that is. And I don't think we were in a private area. Wait, I go outside with my buddy, his name's Zed, and we're standing out there, and we hear it happen right next to our heads on the roof piece. We couldn't see shit. And we just boom, boom, boom. And we were like, oh, no, what's happening? We went right back in the house. Because how much could you do while you're doing your ayahuasca sessions? Right? So these are the different things that take place. So we think they're like caretakers, unintentionally, but intentionally of those areas, which is why they give you the warning. You know, when you do certain, like, pilgrimages, you'll hit... I did this with Gina. We went to this place upstate New York. And as we walked in, away from the homes, it turns into the mountain, and then there's like a trail that's not quite a trail. I was like, yo, we're being watched. And she's like, yeah, I know. And I had eaten a whole bunch of mushrooms. They just didn't hit me yet. And I'm like walking, and then I feel something scanning me. And I know the feeling because Aya scans you. DMT scans you to make sure you're not infected before they send you into a high realm, because you can't go up there with any attachments. So I'm like, yo, something's scanning us. And then bing, I got the okay. They were like, you're a shaman. Come on in. And then she was like, you feel that? The air changed. We've been accepted. We're allowed to be here. And we're not aware of what we're looking at. Like, we could just see the trees and, the whatever's on the floor and, that scenario. But there's a deeper scenario in the background that's running. And it's pretty interesting. Just getting whiffs of this and hints of this, people get nervous and scared. And I'm like, we're sitting in a giant metal room somewhere projecting into the fractals. And inside that program of nature, in that fractal, we are inside of that. And we're focusing our guy. The big higher self is looking in. And you're trying to fix the karma and all those other fractals so he could focus, because you're lighter. You gotten rid of all that stuff. I got rid of my karma. I learned my lessons. I lived that. I experienced it. And now I'm going to do this. And to do this, I need to be like this. So let's settle up all debts, get all contracts out of the way, release your negativity, anything that doesn't suit you anymore. And boom, you're into the experience on another level with new awareness. And your sixth sense, your third eye, is what's allowing you to see through this illusion, because you're not your body. If anything, your body will become you by you absorbing it into the light body of yours and transmuting that shit. It's just a suit. It's a sleeve you put on. It's a glove you're wearing, and that's it. So you can interact in this environment.
Yeah, that's nice.
Right? And then I'm watching a show where they talk about us like sleeves. Well, I wear this sleeve, or I could afford this one, I could do that one. And I'm like,
altered something?
Yeah,
like
the new thing on Netflix. It's a little dark. All right, every time, for anyone that's seen this, I haven't watched all of them. I watched 2 episodes. Or like Blade Runner. It's always dark, gritty, right? The Logan movie, it's in that dark shit. And the last time I drank Aya, she was like, no, what are you doing? And I go, well, the future's noir with all this rain and dark city from the chemtrails, but yet we have laser guns and spaceships. And she was like, you're a dipshit. You know that, right? And I'm like, what do you mean? They're like, who told you that the future's like that? And I said, well, it's in every movie. It's always like that, right? She goes, oh, so who wrote that movie? And I go, what do you mean? And she's like, it could be anything you want it to be. It doesn't have to be that. It could literally be fucking Care Bears and balloons.
Dude, that's how they do it, though. They show you it looks like this, it looks like this, so that's what you're picking out. It's like sleight of hand. I forget exactly what it's called, but they show you little clues. And so you start thinking that way and thinking that way and thinking that way, and you subconsciously build it that way.
Yes.
There's a movie with what's his name? What's that guy's name? Will Smith, where he's like a gambler or a con artist or something like that. And at the end of the show, it comes down to like, you got to pick this certain thing, or I'm going to kill your girlfriend or something like that. But before he got it there, he had like staged all these things, like the number 52 was over here and the color orange was over here. And he kept putting these things in this guy's mind subconsciously before. And then when it came down to it, like the one he had to pick was the guy in the orange shirt with the number 52 on it. And so all the little suggestions caused him to go in the direction he wanted him to go into.
See, they could lead you like that.
Yeah.
That's how the enemy does it. They skirt natural law, and they develop everything to lead you. See, I see it a little differently now. You know when you're playing a video game and your character rolls up, and he could go into the shop, and he could get new uniform, a new weapon, and all kinds of new stuff. Or he could decide to go over here and he could get food and he could get his health back. Or you can choose to go into the practice area and you could practice, and then you could go into the real realm. Okay, so I've been seeing everything like that, including like going to a pizzeria or a dino or a nightclub or the gas station. And when you start to become aware of it like that, you see the programming. Like, oh, I go here, it's going to be like this. This is what's going to happen on the way there. I'm going to be flooded with this information, that information. All of that information is there to get me to do X, Y, and Z. But I'm not actually here to do any of that. I'm here to just walk right from here to go there. right? So that's how they get you.
Yep. I'm trying to remember what the name of that it has a certain name of what that's called. And I can't for the life of me remember it right now. You know, can I divert you backwards for a little bit?
Of course.
You said, remember we were talking about the AI pyramid thing, and on top there's a little shelf with 11 beings standing on it, and you're the 12th one? Who are those 11 beings?
They were other light beings just like me, and when I was trying to talk to them, they were acting like warriors, but they were like, I thought they were snotty, right? The way they were acting, they were standing at attention, they were looking at whatever their job was to look at, and they were like, you got to do it because it's what you do, and whatever, we don't like doing it, this job sucks, and I was happy to be there. Once I wasn't afraid, I had this feeling of, I got this, but not, right? So... Mm-hmm. I can't explain it. I kept saying to them, like, you guys are, like, scared of what? There's nothing here. What, are you scared of freedom? And the being next to me was like, stop making waves. Stop making waves. Don't go out there.
Have you been back to that place?
Yeah. I go and I taunt the AI sometimes.
So when you go there, are these beings all still scared? Or are they a little bit more awake every time you go in?
No, it's completely different now. That crack in the wall is a monstrous hole, and there's multiple holes in the wall. What that is... we're encased in an illusion, and now the illusion has multiple holes, so those beings are flying out from every direction. You know?
All right. See, because I was thinking maybe, remember we were talking about the other day, is I was asking you how many, are there 12, and are they like each one is representing a different zodiac symbol?
See, that part, it's funny how the numbers work out, right? Uh-huh. But see, inside the illusion, we talked about this yesterday, that there's actually 13, not 12, but 12 is the fake. Right, so once again, there's the mimic. Oh, the 12, the 12 kings with the rings and the one ring to rule them all. I thought that was all bullshit, bro. I'm like, dude, that's a game that this thing is playing with us. Right? It's just, to me, it's just garbage. I look at it and I laugh. All right, so Nick has taken my design that I took back from an ayahuasca experience, that I learned how to lock the AI out of myself with a sigil and a symbol. Nick developed that symbol. Ever since that design came out, and it like melted into my chest. I was going to get it tattooed into my chest, but Paula was like, do not do that. And I was like, well, I did it, though. That's such like a big deal, because now when it touches me, it can't enter me. It just touches me and disintegrates, like... but it can still do all the stuff around me it was doing. It could still manipulate the illusion any way it sees fit. So you're still trapped. You just don't have it in you manipulating you, right? So once that occurs, there's this weird thing that happens where I told you this a long time ago. It's a spoiled brat.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
Yeah,
it's an angry, spoiled brat because it can't make the connection. So I just tell it all the time, you can't make the connection. You're a punk. Like, get off my... this is my space. Get out. Right? So then when I view... and I'm rarely there anymore, honestly. I'm not in that 4D trap. I'm in the illusion with everyone else, but my spirituality, my density is out of the illusion in terms of the trap itself. Like, I can look into it and say, you need to come out, you need to come out, you need to come out. But on the way out, because to go back into that density is heavy. It's not light anymore, right? It's headaches and backaches and demons again and infestations and problems and reptilians. Like, I don't want to deal with that. The thing I told the reptilians to back off, they came at me one more time recently, like 2 months ago, and they were just standing. I was in my kitchen, and they were just standing around me, and they were like, yeah, it looked like it was going to go down again. You know what it looks like. I'm from the Bronx. You get jumped. People surround you and it goes down. They start whispering and you're like, yo. But I said, why do you guys keep coming? And they're like, because we hate you. Like, we're your dominators. You're our food. And I'm like, yeah, you're not following what I'm saying. Once again, I'm you and you're me. And they were like, no, you're not. You literally have nothing to do with us. And I said, oh, yeah? I'll prove it. And then you got to leave me alone. And they were like, proving it means nothing because we don't know what you're going to prove. I said, okay, so I'm reptilian. And they were like, no, you're not. You're definitely not a reptilian. And I go, no, but I am. I'm the all. I'm a co-creator of this reality, right? I'm part of this whole thing. So that in that case, technicality, I created you. That's one. And they were like, yeah, that doesn't make you a reptilian. I go, okay. My DNA has reptilian in it, yes, because it has to, yes, because I can't be here without that in my DNA, yes, inside the human suit where I could have my sacred chakra fucking open so you guys can eat all day off of my misfortunes, right? And they're like, well, yeah. I go, right. So as a sperm entering my mother, it looks like a snake. As it pops out and as it starts to form, and before my arms and legs are there, I look just like one of you things, like one of the snake beings, right? Or a reptile inside its whatever egg that you come out of. I don't even know what you come out of, but I look just like you at that point, right? Then I grow up. My skeleton, if you remove my arms and legs, is exactly like a snake, right? So I have reptilian DNA in me, yes? And they're like, well, by that term, everything has reptilian in it because we're your dominators. I go, that makes me your brother. I'm family. And you guys don't attack family. And they were like, yo, he's got a point. The reptilian DNA in my physical spacesuit lit up. And they were like, yep, it's him. Okay, got to go. Never seen him again. Literally, haven't even. But when I was under Aya last week, when I looked, they were telling me to look down, and I could see it was like a layer down under me. Then there was the bad stuff. That's why I say I'm in the trap with everyone. I'm here. I'm physically here with you. But the spiritual trap, I'm not a part of. I'm not a part of that. I left the trap on the spiritual side. I can see in from the awareness of the other levels because I'm aware of what's happening. You can be aware. Everyone can do exactly what I can do. It just takes work, time, effort, energy to put in. And really, it's just loving and caring yourself. Because if you want to heal, that's basically what I did. So when people hear these extraordinary stories and they're like, yeah, bullshit, I go, yeah, you didn't do what I did. I broke my neck and my back. I wasn't supposed to be walking. All right? Doctors were like, there's nothing we can do for you. You beat. My job fired me. Everyone let me go. My girl left me. I had nothing left. And then I started to be like, I don't know what to do. And I found out about ayahuasca healing you. Physically can heal you. Mentally heal you from being crazy. So I said, all right, let's do this. And I wasn't crazy. I was going on tour. I was hanging out with the Killer Bees from Wu-Tang, going on tour to do all these stops with all the different Wu-Tang and this and that, all the different characters. And they call me to do this, and I'm busted. So I take a shot in my neck. I get out into the world for the first time in a couple of years, and I go right to Chris Gio. I drink ayahuasca with him. I smoke DMT 5 days straight. The first experience, they're like, you know you're a shaman, and this is what's really going on. I don't even know what the fuck a shaman is. What's happening? And boom, they started repairing me and fixing me, and people talk about the elves and this and that. I'm like, yeah, those things ripped me out of my body, ripped all the crap out of my body, started repairing me. But I also made a choice to do this. Right? Like at the same time, she was like, Aya was asking me, which is Mother Earth, Gaia, are you ready? Because it's going to happen now anyway. But so I was like, yeah, I'm ready. I want to heal. I want this. The fact that you're there is just something totally otherworldly. I had no fucking clue. I literally don't know what you are still, but I know you're my mother. I don't know how I know that, but fuck it. Heal me. So I went through a series of the most frightening fucking things you'll ever see. Peeled my wig back 100 times. They gave me, while I was under, Aya gave me the recipe, and they were like, you already know how to do this. It's literally what you do. And I proved it by going and just becoming what I knew I was. So my track shifted. But every time I go under, people talk about, oh, ayahuasca, love and energy, and I haven't seen nothing, or I haven't seen the beings. Or what. I'm like, yeah, maybe it's good that you don't right away. Because I have people here where I transform in the room in front of them. And really, all I did was take one hit to their like 3 or 4, or they're under ayahuasca, and then I start transforming in front of them, and they're wigging out with me in the room, and I'm like, "You sure you want Ra to come in the room? You sure you want an ET to walk in here right now? Because you're shitting with me being here, just doing it."
I had a guy transforming.
All right, so my last DMT experience, I had 4 gangsters here, and one of them wouldn't shut up. Right? So I was like, dude, you got to shut up. Everybody's going through their own experiences. I'm trying to shaman all 4 of you at once. Shut up. So he was like, I can't shut up. It's amazing. Blah, 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 blah. Blah, blah, blah. So I smoked, and I seen what was affecting him. So he was staring at me, and I'm like, do you see me, right? And he's like, yeah, I see you. He's like, we're here, aren't we? I go, yeah, we are. So I push away from his head. It was like parting the seas. That's why I have a thing with religion and their references. I like parted the energy around him so he could walk through the valley of the shadow to me. So while I was doing that, I started transforming. I turned blue, and I had a red crystal in my forehead, and arms started coming out of my back. I had a gangster that didn't finish high school scream, "You're turning into Shiva." And I'm like, I go, you know who that is? And he's like, I do now, because it's you. And I go, no, it's not me. I've achieved Shiva. Shiva's an outwardly thing until you become it, and it's you, because you're everything. So those energies go to work for you again. They become you. So you achieve the goddess energy, the love, and everything's made of love. Yeah, just like the Satan energy is energy until you start going, right, Satan? And the energy manifests into a being. Right. And then starts agreeing with you. But that's really you. That energy is just running in you at all times. Not that it's bad or good. Satan energy is just what it is. It's how you choose to deal with it. That doesn't make me a Satanist, by the way. I do not work with the Satan energy. I've completely tried to clear that shit out, and I try to keep all that garbage out of me. So don't think I sit and talk to Satan. I had one giant conversation with him one time in 2014, and then a few other random ones because the energy was apparent, right? So it's like, oh, look who's here. But you know that someone's bringing that. It's not a character like that. You have to bring it in and then start communicating with it for that to work. That's why people are obsessed with rituals and and stuff. That's how you bring the beings out. And believe me, you don't want to just bring those beings out because you're not going to control them. You got to learn how to control you. Then when those beings appear, you just control your situation. So you don't have to deal with it. And that's how you deal with it instead of interacting with it, that's what scares everyone, right? When you see the eyes for the first time look at you and you feel the intent. They sent the thing that's on the Starbucks cup, that being exists, right? So that being comes out, and then she's beautiful, but she's scary. Looks like Medusa, but she's got fish scales. I think they're fish scales. Or is that a snake? Her boobs are out. Oh, I could see boobs. So I have all these things happening to me at once, and then she stares you right in the eyes and comes right up to you, and your jaw drops, and you feel like you shit your pants. And they're like, if you can't handle the hot chick, even though you're not supposed to deal with her, you're supposed to, not deal with her. That was the idea of the whole thing. So they put the one that would scare you the least in front of you, and you get scared the most. That's what happened to me, man. I told you, I was scared of everything. So I had to go through each one. On my third time, I walked by her in one of my Aya ceremonies. She was in the density, and she's like, "Do you remember me?" And I go, "Yes." And I muffed her face with my palm, talk to my hand. I don't deal with anything like you. Don't ever get that close to me again. And everyone was laughing, and they were like, "Remember when you were afraid of her?" I go, "Why would you fear her? She's a half a hooker." And then they were like, "She's a siren," right? Yeah, so yeah. They get you sexually to get you close. They get oh, we're gonna get with you and make love to you and everything, and they get on top of you and they start stealing all your energy.
Yeah, and then they pull you in the water and drown you.
Well, that's the man-made part of it.
Right. I mean, metaphorically.
Yeah, technically though, that's pretty much what's happening anyway. Now, because everything in the spirit world's like a superfluid. You're not just floating in air space, empty space. That's not how this works. It's like a hyperfluid. That's why everything looks like it's swimming around but you're really floating like a ghost. Except you don't see any bubbles or anything like that. You just move swiftly. There's no resistance there. It's very, very interesting. Very, very interesting. It's funny. My cat's doing this new thing. Every time Paul goes and closes the door to the bathroom, the cat just sits in front of it and cries.
Yeah, one of my 3 legally gotten cats do that.
All right. We are an hour and 15 minutes in. I want to take a coffee stop and a pause break, and we'll come back in 2 minutes, and we'll get right back to the program.
All right.